Damian Lillard is continuing his absolutely amazing tear this season, as last night he went off for 50 points with 6 3-pointers made, 10 assists, and only 4 turnovers. Damian Lillard right now is the third ranked player in season totals. Okay, he's averaging 4.4 3-pointers made per game, 30 points per game, and 8 assists per game. Okay, he's absolutely balling out of control. In the last 2 weeks, okay, he's been averaging 5.2 threes per game and 34.8 points. That's absolutely insane, especially when you consider he's shooting 48% from the field and 95% from the free throw line. These are absolutely incredible and insane numbers. And if you guys didn't know, I am the talented Mr. Taco. This is the Daily Sporting, and we are on This Week in Fantasy Basketball. What we like to do on this show and this program is we like to cover some of the latest updates and news, the injury reports, and also break down some players for you guys to pick up and possibly that you may debate about trading, or that may be potential cut candidates or first persons off the roster type scenarios. Okay, this is a weekly show, so you can make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you never miss another episode, as we're going to be getting ready for the playoffs. There's only about four weeks left to the playoffs, so we're going to be doing these every Monday now live, and the rebroadcast is going to be on Tuesdays. Okay, and that's going to be starting next week. You can catch the live recordings with us on Twitter, on Facebook, okay, and on Twitch. Now, also, just so you guys know, with This Week in with our channel, okay, the Daily Sporting, we're doing a giveaway for NBA Top Shots. So long as you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you'll be entered into a giveaway to get one Top Shot moment. We'll be giving away the first moment when we reach 100 subscribers on YouTube. So we're definitely coming up on that. It's only 68 subscribers. We'd like to hit that mark before the end of the month. So we're definitely going to be geared up and ready for that. But now let's get into the episode. Okay, first and foremost, Christian Wood will be back tonight. The Rockets have lost 17 straight games without him. On the season, he was averaging 22 points and 10 rebounding while shooting 56% from the field and 42% from the three-point line. The dude's been absolutely a monster, and getting him back into a lot of lineups is going to provide a lot of relief. The Houston Rockets have already released DeMarcus Cousins, so there's really going to be no one to compete for time for him. So eventually it's going to get to the point where he's just going to be, dominating the timeshare, getting over 30 minutes per game, and absolutely balling out. Now might be the time if you want to try to make a trade for Christian Wood. Now may be a good time to try to send some offers out there, but get him activated for your lineups this week. Okay, next up, the Toronto Raptors are announcing that Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet will be pretty much able to play tonight versus Detroit. Okay, this is going to be almost a 2-week absence that these guys have had. They were out from before the All-Star break, and they haven't come back yet. So this will be a big boost for a lot of fantasy rosterers. I know personally I have Pascal Siakam in the league, and I'm dying for him to come back. So it'll be nice to have him back in my lineup and get that rolling. Toronto's, I believe, lost. They lost 5 games in a row now, so they definitely need the firepower and they need to get some things going. The rumors are that OG Anunoby should be coming back on Friday, so we have to keep word for that. Make sure you check with us on Twitter or check for the injury feeds on OG Anunoby if you're rostering him. Also, the rumors on Anthony Davis so that he could possibly miss the next couple of weeks. We're looking at possibly 3 weeks or more. He's currently been sidelined, I want to say, for at least 2 weeks so far. So this is going to be something definitely that we're going to have to monitor. In his stead, we have seen guys like Kyle Kuzma totally taking off and totally exploding. In the last 7 days alone, he's been shooting 53% from the field. He's getting 2.7 threes per game, 19 points, 7 rebounds, only 1 turnover. So he's been pretty efficient and effective. His free throw shooting does leave something to be desired, and he doesn't give you much as far as blocks or assists. But overall, I think you can do a lot worse than a guy like Kyle Kuzma. And with Anthony Davis being out, they're leaning on him for more scoring. If we look at what he's done in the past 30 days, his ratings go down a little bit because his percentages go down a little bit. But overall, he's been hitting 2.4 threes per game, 14.8 points, 8.3 rebounds, only 2 turnovers, the blocks and the steals under 1 per each, under 2 assists. So he does need to get a little bit more in the counting categories in order for him to boost his value up. But overall, if he can keep closer to what he's been doing over these last couple of weeks with hitting over 50% from the field, I think that's going to really boost his value. And he's really been hitting the three ball really well. So that also helps him out a lot with his value. So if he is available, which he is available right now in 37% of leagues, I think he's definitely a good guy to take a look at and possibly add to your roster as we get close to the playoff crunch. Another guy that we can talk about right now is Kevin Porter Jr. 5 days ago, not that long ago, we were talking about him and how he was going to make his debut for the Houston Rockets. He was doing really well in the G League. At that point in time, he was 20%, 7% rostered, and that was up 18% from what he previously was at. Now, if we take a look at what's going on here, boom, Kevin Porter Jr. is up to 73% roster percentage. On the season, he's averaging 18.3 points, 8.3 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, 3.3 turnovers. Yes, it's a small sample size for him, but so far he's really been balling out and delivering on his promise of all the talent that we saw last season. If we look at what he's just done in the last 2 weeks, he's been pretty much putting up all those averages that we saw, which have been fantastic. 1.5 threes, 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, 3.3 turnovers, 3.5 rebounds. So I think especially with Oladipo seeing so much time that he's going to be on the bench and that they're resting him, that going forward for the rest of the season, Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be an absolute stud. And those people that were able to get a chance to roster him definitely are benefiting out. Look, he's up a plus 9% and just in the last day. He's up to 73% total. We're talking about in 5 days. This guy's gone from like 18% to 73%. That's definition of someone shooting to the moon. So he definitely blew up over these last couple of days, and someone definitely to keep in mind if he's still available to go and get. Now, the next player that we're going to talk about is another guy that we had mentioned. We mentioned him in the beginning of February, so it's roughly about a month ago that we talked about Potel. He had shown some signs of possibly taking over in that role, but then we look at what happened recently. Okay, Lamarcus Aldridge has basically left the team. They're going to make a decision on are they just going to buy him out or trade him. So we know that there's going to be movement with Aldridge, which has left the job completely up to Potel. If we look at just what he's done over the past 2 weeks, okay, his shooting, great, 55% from the field. If we look at his points, 7 points, that's not that great. 7.2 assists, that's pretty. 7.2 rebounds, that's pretty good. 2.4 assists from a big man, that's great. 1.4 blocks, that's really good. 0.6 steals, you kind of want a little bit more out of him. But the thing we have to look about Jacob is that he's going to be getting a lot more minutes going forward, and his minutes are going to be guaranteed. So we did experience a little bit of a lull here. He hasn't been playing as great in some of these losses. But if we look at what he did in his last game, he really showed that promise that, is bringing people into him and making him believers and wanting to see what he could do, because there's not many players in the league that can get you 4 blocks in a game. And consistently, he's been averaging almost 2 blocks per game. He's gone through many different spurts where he's gone, blocking 3-4 game block shots in a game. If we look at the stretch here, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, that's really great consistency from a big man getting these blocks. He's showing up with some assists. He hasn't really been delivering with the points that much, so if you do need points, he's not really going to help you there. But as the peripherals for a big man, especially at the end of your roster, I think he could do a lot worse than a guy like this. So he's someone I think going forward, especially with the minutes that are going to start opening up for him, I think it's going to give him an opportunity to really show and prove himself and get, become a fixture in some of these lineups and help you win the championship. Because as we get closer to playoffs, the bottom man on your roster is going to matter more and more, because he's going to be the guy that as you're rotating guys in and you're facing him, these guys' counting stats is going to be razor thin margins. These guys are going to be the difference makers, because when you're in the playoffs, you're going to face guys that have studs just like you, and those studs will kind of balance each other out. The question is going to be who has the most studs, who has the guys that are performing the best at the end of their roster to help give them the categories that they need in order to pull off a victory. Because if you're playing head-to-head categories, basketball leagues, this is one thing that you have to look at. Which 5 categories am I going to win? Because you don't need to win 7, you don't need to win 8, you need to win 5. 5 to 4 is all you need to do in order to win. Now, ideally, you want to shoot for 6 to 7 categories that you're going to go for, because in case you lose one or one gets tied, boom, you have categories to fall back on. For your ideal, it's to go for 7 categories each week. even though you might only win 5, but you want to ideally shoot for 7 and then have 5 that you can pretty much win every week versus anyone. Okay, this keeps you out of the woods in most cases. It does make it hard if you meet someone that is diametrically opposed to your team and can beat you in those categories. That's why I do say you have to go for 7, because in those situations it may be steals where you both are competing and you both are at that level, and that's the one category that's going to shift the balance because he has his 4 categories that he's going for. You have your 4 categories that you have locked up, and now that 5th category you're both battling for, and that's what the championship's going to ride on. So when you're in categories-based leagues, strategy becomes very relevant, and you have to be able to stay on your toes and make your adjustments. One thing that we also have to note here is that Kemba Walker is going to be out tonight, and Tristan Thompson, is going to be out for league safety protocols. There's talks about Tristan Thompson possibly being traded, and with that being said, it will open up some minutes for some of the other players that are on this team. 2 players in consideration that we have to look at the center position is Daniel Theis, who has been really good. If you look at it, 9.3 points, 5 rebounds, 1.8 assists, under a block and steal per game, but he's giving you solid percentages. He's hitting, all his free throws. He's shooting 61% from the field. If we look at his game logs, 15-11 in his last game, 17-8 in the game before that. His minutes are kind of inconsistent, as we see here, 6 minutes in that one, 7 minutes in this one, but when he gets the consistent minutes, he's putting up relatively good numbers and relatively good value, other than the occasional dud. But overall, he's been pretty solid. And with no Tristan Thompson, he's going to be an interesting guy to roster. But there's another guy over there as well, the Time Lord, Robert Williams, who's really started to ball out over the last couple of games. And I think that's why most people are dropping Theis, because they're going towards Robert Williams, mainly because of the block shots that he's able to get. Now, if we look at what's gone on over just the last 2 weeks, he's been ranked number 25 on the season, or in the last 2 weeks, not on the season, shooting 73% from the field. He's an insanely good shooter from the field because he gets a lot of dunks, a lot of easy layups and putbacks. Free throw wise, he's balling out, hitting 80%. I really wouldn't have expected that from him, but you know what, he is doing it. And if we look at his game log, especially over these last couple of games, he's been getting close to 20 minutes now per game, and with 20 minutes, he could be a really efficient and effective player on your roster. Now, the question comes down to who would you want, a Robert Williams or a Jacoby Patel? I'll probably lean toward a Jacoby, just because of the fact that he should be swinging towards more minutes, but with the way Robert Williams is playing, it's going to be hard to argue against, picking a guy up like him, especially with his upside and knowing that Thompson is out. And if Theis gets hurt, this guy's the automatic starter, and he's going to be looking at close to 35 minutes per game. With 35 minutes per game, you could be looking at close to like 15 and 12 with almost 5 blocks, and that would be insane numbers. So that's definitely someone, if he's on your waiver wire, which he is on 44% of leagues, it's something that you want to keep in mind and possibly look at. Another player that we could talk about is Moses Brown. Moses Brown last night had a really good game. Everyone's talking about him. I'm seeing the memes everywhere. He had 20 points, 16 rebounds, 5 blocks in a loss to Chicago. Last couple of games, he's been starting to get some minutes up, and if you look, he's been playing really good with some minutes. He's gone double-digit points in 2, double-digit rebounds in 2. He's gotten a block shot in every single game. Only 1 turnover, so he's really not giving you that many turnovers. He's gotten a steal in 2 of the 4 games. So overall, not too bad. Free throw shooting is not terrible. Field goal shooting is really efficient. Now, the beautiful thing about this guy is that with the way OKC Thunder is setting up this roster and setting up their run, they're playing a lot of their young guys, and they're giving a lot of breaks to their veterans. It's almost like they're trying to slide. We know that this is going to be a good NBA draft coming up with guys like Cade Cunningham going to be available. So Oklahoma City Thunder and Moses Brown, I think these two guys kind of mesh in where they are in their timeline. OKC want to play young guys and see what they have. Moses Brown is a young guy that's going to get an opportunity to shine, and he's doing the most with it. So this could be a good pickup for your fantasy rosters. Right now, he's only rostered in 25% leagues, so he's definitely someone that you could take a look at and possibly pick up for your rosters. Now, the next guy that I'm going to bring up here is the exact guy that's in the situation that he's getting minutes from, and that's Al Horford. Al Horford this season has been super solid. He's been putting up good numbers: 15 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1.7 blocks, only 1 turnover, 55% from the field, 2 3-pointers. That's just over the last 2 weeks. But the thing about Al Horford that's really frustrating and kind of annoying is that he's sitting so much, almost in front of every single back-to-back game he's been sat, and he just recently sat 2 in a row. So we're all hoping that Al Horford gets traded, because if he doesn't get traded before this deadline, there's a very good possibility that he's going to be sitting out in a lot of crucial playoff games, and that's going to be super frustrating. I do have Al Horford on 2 teams. I really don't know what I'm going to do with him, because when he plays, he's really good, but he's so many games now not playing that it's getting hard that I almost want to look at possibly trading him. But with the trade deadline coming up, I kind of hold out hope that OKC does the right thing and they trade him to a contender where he'll be able to play minutes and get a shot to boost his fantasy value back up for a lot of us, and ride into the sunset, or ride into our championships with Al Horford getting consistent playing time and consistent minutes, because he's shown he can do it and he's doing it. So now let's just get him some time. Okay. Next player up that I want to talk about, Nick Claxton. Okay. Nick Claxton, super hyped sleeper. Everyone was talking about him. He was trending up. But as we see here lately, his numbers are starting to go down a little bit. And if we look at the situation, Blake Griffin's going to be back shortly. Kevin Durant's going to be back shortly. All of these guys are going to eat into his minutes, eat into his playing time, and eat into his counting stats. He's not someone that I'm really at this point that much into. He has been doing pretty good, though, that he's ranked 114 on the season. And if you look at what he's done in the past 2 weeks, he shows a little bit of solidness. But at this point in time, I think it's time to dump shares of Claxton if you have him. Another guy that we're looking at, McConnell. TJ McConnell's been solid for the season. He's been putting up solid percentages. He's gotten you points and assists, good steals. But basically what's happened with him is now that Karis LeVert is back, his playing time has gone down just a little bit, and so is his usage. He's really been struggling in his last couple of games, and as you see here, he's taken a massive dip, down 17%. This is a guy where if you do have him, I would consider cutting him for a hotter free agent. And if you see him on the waiver wire and you see like how high he's ranked, I would take that with a grain of salt, and I possibly would think about maybe going another direction instead of adding a TJ McConnell. And next up, who we have is another player that that I like to talk about a lot, Kendrick None. Now, Miami seems like they're going to be an active team during the trade deadline. Recently, they just made a trade to deal Miles Leonard to OKC for Trevor Ariza. So that's one move that's going to more than likely be going down. Kendrick None, we're looking at right here as someone that he's been dropping recently. His minutes have gone down a little bit. He's gone through a little bit of a shooting slump. He's been, really good for most of the season. Although if we look over his last, 6 games or so, he's really started to slow down a lot. His field goal percentage is down a lot. And I'm at this point holding him, not dropping him yet, because he's shown a lot of flashes and bursts. He's pretty solid overall. Doesn't really hurt you anywhere, especially with the shooting. We're hoping that this is more of a little slump that he'll be able to get through and get over. So that's why right now we're going to hold him. Plus, I don't know exactly what Miami is going to be doing at this trade deadline. So there's a possibility that Nunn could be a casualty of a trade and go to another team where he's going to be able to get more playing time, and that'll greatly increase his value. So as of right now, I'm holding Nunn unless I see a really mega hot, Kevin Porter type free agent, and then I make the switch on him. Okay, next up, Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson, I have him in a few leagues, and that's why I can bring him up. It's a red flag alert on this guy right now. He's really starting to get a little bit inconsistent. His shooting has gone down. His threes have gone back down. He's not getting as many blocks and steals as he used to get. Rebounds really aren't there anymore. His points are kind of staying a little bit up, but not that great. So I'm personally saying, we're starting to ring the bell on him. Someone that if you do have him on your roster, it may be time to start looking for a hot free agent, especially as we're getting closer to the fantasy playoffs. We need to see the players that we could possibly use as cut targets for hot free agents, especially as time positions open up and we see teams like Oklahoma City and the Wizards and all these other guys start playing some of their younger talent as we get closer to the end of the season. These guys with the minute influxes may provide you with more value for your team that'll really help you get to that next step. Okay, Tate is one guy that I wanted to touch on real quick as a guy that's really starting to really hold his own. It's the same situation that we spoke about with Houston with Porter Jr. They're trying to play a lot of their young guys, and with that being said, that these guys aren't rostered yet. They're not on a lot of people's radars, and that's especially because they haven't been doing that much for the season. But if we drill down to what they've been doing over the last couple of games, especially the last 2 weeks, if you see, he's been averaging 30 minutes per game, 13 points, 48% free field goal shot, 1 3, 2 steals, under 2 turnovers per game, 14 points, and almost 7 rebounds. It's really good stats, really solid numbers. He is a little inconsistent still. Again, it's someone that we're watching. We have to see how everything plays out. We have to see if Oladipo ends up staying in the lineup. We have to see if Wall stays healthy. But these are some guys that you could look at and just keep in mind as we keep going on, that you might want to keep on the roster. Another guy that we could talk about like that is KJ Martin. KJ Martin is another one of these players that, again, he's getting time because of the situation down in Houston. It's like the third player that we're talking about in Houston, but if you look at what they're doing, 52% from the field, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 1.8 blocks, 1.3 steals, 7 rebounds. This guy's been absolutely balling. He's at 42% rosterships, averaging 31 minutes over the past 2 weeks. He's definitely a guy, if you have a chance to add him, I'd be interested in adding him. Yes, he's been pretty solid, especially since he's come back from looks like it COVID, or I'm not exactly sure why he just wasn't playing, and it could be just that he got called up. I'm actually not too familiar with his history. All I do know is that based on his stats and his usage, he's a guy that warrants my attention, and now he has it, and I'll find out more about him as we go forward. But KJ Martin Jr. is definitely someone, as you see, 22% added in the last day. He's gotten the attention right now of the community, and we're going to do our due diligence and see about him. But, as a short-term streamer, I like him, and we just take it as we see it with him and how he develops. But definitely someone good to take advantage of and to look at. Next up that we have Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. is someone that was playing really good to start the season. He suffered an injury. He was out for a while. That caused him to be dropped in a lot of leagues. He's down to 62% rostership. So there's 38% of leagues where he's still available. It's a decent guy that you can go grab and add to your roster. He gives you a little bit everywhere. It doesn't really hurt you that much in many places other than your free throw percentage. The thing about him is now with Andre Drummond not playing, there's an opportunity for him to really get some shine, get some time, and get the ability to be a fantasy relevant player as he was at the beginning of the season. Last night we finally saw him get some significant minutes. He played 38 minutes in a loss to Miami. He was roughly hovering about 27 minutes per game in his first 2 games back. But in that game last night, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 turnovers, 1 3-point made. I mean, for a center position guy, and that's available on a waiver wire, that's something that's eye-catching to me. Definitely someone that I would look to pick up, and definitely a good add in almost any format. Then just to quickly run down just some of the top guys that we have going on for the last 2 weeks. Really, we're talking here. No, it's actually the last month. Let me excuse myself. But some of the guys that we see here, Jimmy Butler's absolutely been going off. He's been putting up his numbers. He's just been really efficient. 51% from the field, 86% free throw. Really doing his thing. Robert Covington, we saw him dropped earlier in a lot of leagues, but he's really stepped up and started to play a lot better for that Portland team. Powell. Since everyone went out, Powell's been going insane. He's been absolutely balling. He's been hitting like almost like 4 threes per game, which is absolutely great. If we look over here, though, we also see Richaun Holmes has been maintaining his value. Thaddeus Young, who we spoke about earlier in the year, this guy has really kept it up and just been playing, really great basketball for the season. Even with everyone starting to come back, he's still putting up numbers, and the coach really likes him. So he's definitely been a mainstay in lineups. But that's all we have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you have any questions about your team or possible lineup changes, feel free to leave it in the comments below. We answer all questions and make sure that we take care of everyone here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, especially here on YouTube, so you can be entered into our NBA Top Shot giveaway. I want to thank you guys for all your time here. I appreciate everything, and you guys have a wonderful day, and check out our new intro, or I should say outro in this one.
Hey, David and Taco, they bring that heat. All about UFC, way more than a fantasy. Let's see who going toe to toe, throw down on the mat. Check the replay, run it back. We gotta check the stats. Hey, do this every day. We ain't come to play. This is sports talk, and we love talking MMA. Everything fantasy sports. Dopest show that I know. With Electric Dave and talented Mr. Taco. Let's go. Hey, yeah.